Hello, my name is Tran Anh Thu Phan. Currently, I'm a first-year student of Bachelor's of Arts in Hospitality Management. Last year, I just finished my 4-month internship in Golf Hotel Renecat in Montreux, Switzerland, starting at the beginning of July and finishing at the end of November. Switzerland is the landlocked country located at the confluence of Western, Central, and Southern Europe. Montreux, a former viticulture and fishing village, is now one of the oldest cities in Europe, which means that naturally its economy revolves around tourism. And being located alongside Lake Geneva is for sure an undeniable advantage. Montreux is also famous for its annual jazz music festival, which is held every summer. Not only it attracts a lot of foreign tourists, but also a large number of Swiss people travel to the city to enjoy the festival and thus partake in the tourist economy. The city's main language is French, which is probably one of the reasons why most of the hotel guests are from the French-speaking part of Switzerland. Although, while not being the most frequent, we quite often have guests from German-speaking parts of Switzerland too. The Golf Hotel Renecat, where I had my first internship as an F&B service, is a 4-star hotel located by the side of Lake Geneva and near Montreux centers. Golf Hotel Renecat has 76 renovated rooms which are well furnished and decorated. Furthermore, the majority of the rooms in the hotel are gifted with an astounding view of the lake and accompanied by breathtaking mountains which are well complemented by the surroundings area. We also have 6 special rooms which are named after the cities that are near Montreux, used for serving up breakfast, lunches, dinner, and sometimes seminars or even special events that are requested by the guests. During the time I had my first internship at Golf Hotel Renecat, I got the opportunity to work in the restaurant department as a service trainee. The chance to have my first internship in this hotel was through an email from the internship and career support department at school. As soon as I received the email that stating the opportunity, I sent my resume and cover letter to the internship and career coach. Within a week, I received an email from the general manager of the hotel to have the interview with them. I started my first internship on the 1st of July. At first, I was very hesitant to try to interact with the guests. I just listened to what others interns told me to do and observe how they took the orders and served the guests in a way that allowed me to gather as much information as possible and assimilate to what I had learned. Even though I had prepared myself mentally that the hotel wouldn't provide any induction training for the new interns, still the amount of work or the serving procedures and the POS system of the hotel made me feel overwhelmed during the first 2 weeks working in the hotel. Nevertheless, I knew if I want to catch up the pace with other interns, I have to learn and step out of my comfort zone. So during my first month working in the hotel, I tried to ask as much questions as possible and I listened to the advice from the staff and others interns that already worked before me, and I started to realize that all the working procedures were pretty much similar to what I had learned at school, so I didn't face any difficulties in serving the guests. The only obstacle that I had to deal with was the hotel POS system. Although I had been trained to use the POS system at school, but still it took me a while to get familiarized with the hotel POS system. And to add an adaptation challenge for me, the language that is used for the hotel's POS system wasn't the standard English that is used for most software, but rather French. During my first month working in the hotel, I made some mistake in making the bills or using the countertop payment terminal. But still, without this mistake, I would never have learned any lesson from it. I also found myself lucky from having all the helps and advice from the manager, the staff, and the previous interns. I felt that the working environment seems to be friendly and constructive, which helped to create motivated and comfortable feelings whenever I go to work. Moving on to the second part of the self-evaluated, I'm going to talk about the analysis of internship learning objectives. Before starting my internship, I had set for myself these objectives to be achieved. First of all, I will be able to use the hotel's POS system. Secondly, I will be able to remember the name, types of grapes, specialties of different types of house wine. Thirdly, I will be able to make the bills and using the countertop payment terminal. Fourthly, I will be able to take orders for room service and serve the orders for the guests. And lastly, I will be able to make different kinds of coffee, such as cappuccino, latte. Unfortunately, the hotel didn't give us, the new interns, any induction training before we officially start working. So for most of the tasks that require working, I had to figure it out how to do them efficiently, or I observe and ask my colleagues. Despite the fact that I was just a first-year student without any working experience, I found myself to be quite lucky for the time I spent where I have been trained in practical classes that were included in our study programs. Having the chance to practice as a service trainee into different kinds of restaurants at school allowed me to have the necessary knowledge and skills to work during my first internship. In our school, we have two different kinds of restaurants, which are self-service, also called buffet style restaurant, and fine dining restaurant. While working in the self-service restaurant has offered me an outlook on how a restaurant is run, how many stations should be in a restaurant, and how to prepare and refill during the service time. Practicing in the fine dining restaurant gave me the specific training on the serving procedures, on how to set up a table and all the necessary mise en place for serving. Also, during the time that I had practical class in the fine dining restaurant, I also got the chance to have an overview of the POS system and on how to use it, which helped me not to be bewildered during the time that I interact with the hotel's POS system. Furthermore, I also found that the wine and bar class with Mr. Philip also helped me to have an overall look of the wine, such as different types of the grapes, on how to pair the wine with different courses. That greatly helped me and allowed me to remember the hotel's house wine and sometimes even to recommend the specific and suitable house wine for the guests. After finishing my first internship, I was able to meet all the internship learning objectives that I had set for myself. Furthermore, I also feel that I have learned and experienced much more than what I have expected to achieve as my internship learning objective, such as preparing a seminar, serving a group of guests that could reach up to 100 people. After finishing my first internship, I realized that if I want to have more chance to interact with the guests who don't speak English and be able to take their orders, to explain the menu to them, or even try to answer the questions that related to the tourist informations and the opening hours, I will have to put more efforts in studying French in my second semester in order to unlock the capabilities of listening, understanding, and having some basic conversations with them. Also, to brush up and expand my understanding of wine and alcohol, I'm going to sign up for the master classes that related to what I'm missing right now, and maybe even acquire more varied set of knowledge, not only about wine and alcohol, but also maybe about the arts of tea, perfume, with the aim of broadening my chances to find a suitable internship in my second year. For my second internship, I still favor the perspective of working in the food and beverage department, but I'm not only going to apply to the service positions, but I would rather try to expand my applications to variety positions so that I have the chance to experience different kind of tasks and working places. Moving on to the last part of the video, I'm going to talk about the personal self-assessment, also called SWOT analysis. I believe I'm a hardworking person. Also, I'm willing to learn new things, listen to the advice from my manager and my colleagues. Also, I'm willing to learn and improve myself from all the mistakes that I had made previously. Also, I believe I had positive attitudes towards the guests in the hotels and my colleagues, and I'm a dedicated person to the work, and I know how to observe and adapt to and making myself better to suitable for the working environment. I love to serve the guests and see their satisfaction on how I serve them. I always want to try my best to offer the best service for the guests and give them the pleasant feelings while they are enjoying their vacation at the hotel. Also, I always try my best to remember the special orders and the requirements of each guest so that I'm able to offer them the better service and make them feel the care and the hospitality. I believe with the ability to transfer positively and bring the sublimated mood to the working place can positively affect to the guests and my colleagues. Moreover, the ability to adapt the working environment and making it better also well complemented by my colleagues. Along with that, the enthusiasm, hospitality, and the ability to listen along with the effort to please customers also receive the satisfaction and compliments from a few guests. I believe that the positive attitude that I usually try to bring out whenever I'm on my duty allowed me to stand out from my colleagues. I always mind and welcome the guests with the warmth and the hospitality whenever they enter to the restaurant. Sometimes I think my ability to remember the guest habits also makes them happy. Two factors that hinder my ability to overcome the language boundaries: the intrinsic lack of experience that comes with being a first-year student, as well as the lack of preparation that I had in my language classes, making me only able to communicate with the guests with the language I'm fluent in, English. Thus, I struggle when I try to communicate and take orders for the guests that are non-English speakers, but it didn't stop me from trying new ways to transcend this flaw and speak with them in the non-verbal way. Even though that I have the opportunity to experience and practice in some practical classes during the time I was studying at school, but still it doesn't satisfy the skill requirements that the hotel gives for the interns. For example, despite being the fact that I have to work in the restaurant, sometimes I was being put in the bar, which ended up that I had no previous mixology practical class that would satisfy the needed skill. So it ended up that I had to ask for the help from the other interns or the staff. It took me quite some time to get used to the hotel POS system. Not only it was a new thing to me that I have to get accustomed to pretty fast, because soon it would become a daily encounter in my working place, but also because it was in a language that wasn't common use in most of software, which was French. So in my first month, I had to spend most of my time paying attention to what my colleagues did when they used the POS system and trying to imitate to what they did. I didn't have much knowledge about the alcohol, about wine or liquor, so whenever I had to work behind the bar, which mostly during the lunch service time, I was always stressed and try not to interact with the guests. The time when the guests asking me to make the certain kind of beverage, upon which I was clueless, usually end up with me dealing with the dilemma of having to call another colleagues to come and make the beverage for the guests and explaining me what I needed to know. Language is also my biggest boundary and prevent me from experiencing more. Sometimes we have room service, which means we have to answer the phone call and take the orders for the guests. Most of the guests that are staying in the hotel are French speaking, so it ends up that I couldn't understand and reply to the phone call. Most of the time, either the permanent staff or the interns that could speak French have to answer the phone call and take the orders for the guests. Most of my coworkers have already had working experience or related skills that are required for working in the food and beverage department. Also, most of them are fluent or being able to understand the spoken language, which is French. Class in Four Seasons would broaden my knowledge on how to prepare for buffet service, how to refill different stations, such as hot, cold, and coffee station, and clean during the service time, how to remove the buffet as well as to clean the restaurant in the most fastest and efficient way. Furthermore, practicing serving in couples restaurant would give me basic knowledge about the mise en place that needs to be prepared before the service time, on how to set up a table in our sales station, how to recognize the most used wine glasses and cutlery, how to take and give orders to the kitchen, and most importantly, to unlock fundamental understanding of the POS system and fully use it. Wine bar class with Mr. Philip gave me a primary but necessary understanding of wine, on how to serve the wine correctly, different type of grapes, wine pairing, and an introduction to the most used liquors. Fortunately, there was an intern who came to make friends with me, show me around the places where I would be working for my next 4 months in the hotel, and gave me useful introduction and working instruction so that I could catch up with other interns. I also found myself lucky to work with her because she's always give me constructive comments on how I perform in the working places and give me useful pieces of advice that I believe it could help me to work more productively and efficiently. From her, I have learned a lot of new things that I believe I could use this advice for my next internship. There were times when I had to work the earliest shift, which was usually to prepare the buffet area, get the list of the number of the guests that would come to have breakfast, and to open the restaurant, in which there would normally be another coworkers who has their shift 30 minutes later than my starting hours, sometimes came late, leaving me to take care of everything all by myself until he arrived. If the days were weekdays, I could handle everything all by myself since we usually didn't have a lot of guests staying in the hotel, but during the weekends, the number of the guests staying in the hotel usually had a dramatic surge, which would be a challenge for me if my colleagues came late. So as not to put myself in the rushing situation, I always had to prepare everything that was needed for the buffet refilling as quickly as possible and prioritize the multitude tasks that I had to do while taking care of the tasks that he would have been supposed to do if he was here. So I had to be very quickly and efficient since I was essentially working for two. The need to mention this as a problem to which I was the solution comes from the frequent occurrence of this situation. Even though there were competitors in the working place, but I don't put my mind on competing with my colleagues because the key to an internship is to gain more working experience and knowledge that relates to the job you work. So I only focus on working and improving myself day by day. Also, I don't think that competing was a threat for me. In reverse, from my perspective, it's a chance for me to observe and learn from the mistakes that were made by others co-workers. My philosophy when working in a team is to help each other to improve ourselves. Thus, competing can be an encouragement for each individual to make an effort or to push each other to be better. It's a positive and constructive competition rather than a mindless, mean-spirited, suffocating one. As mentioned before, being a first-year student lacking any relating skill to the professional F&B led me to meet some challenges throughout my internship, which interfered the chance for me to experience and try different tasks. Language boundary also made me unable to fully interact with non-English speaking guests, which, despite my best effort, hindered my ability to experience some activities such as answering the phone call for the room service, taking the orders, or explaining the courses for the guests, and many more. Moreover, as a foreign student traveling alone to a country where I don't have any relatives, staying here also has been a challenge for me to catch up and get to know the local culture. On account of the cultural differences, I might have made some mistake that might offend the guests.